This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, hope you're well. I've got a tremendous chat to share with you. This one features Rob Rieff. He is the bassist and vocalist in Laceration Mantra and also Motorized, one of the world's premier Motorhead tributes. Now, in Laceration Mantra, he's joined by Scotty Edgar. Now, I had Scotty on the show about 12 months ago or thereabouts. Scott is also the guitarist in Misery. So you are talking about Rob and Scotty being a part of Queensland extreme metal royalty. Both bands at this point in time, it must be said, are at the head of the table when it comes to the scene. Now, the catalyst for this chat, well, there's multiple reasons, but ultimately Rob and I, we're part of the same scene. We're both Brisbane locals, and it's just great to have a chat with a bloke who knows some of the people that I know and is also an excellent and outstanding musician. Now, we kick off the chat by talking about what's coming up for Laceration Mantra, and on that note, I have a tune to share with you. This one is titled Annihilation Through Idolatry. It is the first cut from the EP released in 2016. Infested. Once it's done, we'll dive into the conversation. Let's go.
Annihilation
you been, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Been busy working on getting this album done. Scott's been working his ass off, so we're doing it all ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just immersed himself in it. So the amount of hours he's spent.
Yeah.
And every now and again I'll just get, can you come over, have a listen to this? Oh, yeah, all right. So I'll go over there and we'll nut out some stuff and I'll give him my input. And, I was over there the other day and it's sounding huge.
I bet it is. Yeah. This is album number 3 for you guys too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, big stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know, look, you guys are pretty much legends of the local scene. I think between you guys and Scott's other band, Misery, I mean, you pretty much got it wrapped up on the extreme metal front. I know there are other bands out there, but just in terms of the enjoyment factor from an old school metal fan's perspective, I mean, Laceration Mantra, man, those 2 albums they're just enormous. And, with you out the front there, man, I mean, you've just got that like that Dave, take this as a compliment, please, but that David Vincent style frontman thing, you've got that down pat as well.
Oh, they'll definitely take that as a compliment. Yeah, I've seen them a few times, and yeah, he as a front man, that's something you want to aspire to, definitely.
Yeah, that's it. So so Scotty basically writes it all, gets it sorted effectively, and then brings you over to add your special magic to it.
Well, actually, no. Like most of the stuff that we've done on the 3 albums, I'd say probably 70% of it has been me.
Okay.
Doing the writing. And then he'll... that's where we're really lucky as a band because the 3 of us are such good mates that there isn't any... there's no problem if you want to... question something or say, I don't think I like that. Can we try something else? That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I've been really good with that with him because I respect him as a musician and Anthony both with what they've done, and they're the same with me. So there's that really good rapport as when the songwriting element of things occurs. So if there's a song off the new album, off the one we're working on now, where the general feel and everything of the song and the riff was pretty much completely me and the lyrics, but we just couldn't, I don't know, we couldn't get it where we wanted it. Mm. But I was quite confident and had no problem with saying to Scott, look, take it away. Just fuck with it. See what you can do with it. And he went, oh, okay. And he did the same thing with one of his on the new thing. He just gave it to me and said, look, I want the riff to stay the same, but just rearrange it however you want it and put the vocals in. Mm-hmm. So there's that really good working relationship when it comes to songwriting. And then there's also other things like where it'll come in the room and we'll all be happy with the riffs and stuff, but we'll be like, oh, how can we add to it? What can we, where can we put separation, or how can we do something a little bit different? And we'll just jam on it in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a really good atmosphere when it comes to the 3 of us songwriting that we can work off each other.
Yeah, and it also helps the fact that you're in Motorized together as well.
Because... Oh, yeah, well, it's that's just a separate thing altogether where we're at the point where we were like, man, how can we generate some more income? Because everything that we do with Laceration Mantra is all the monetary side of it is only what we earn as a band. Right, yes. So we're not contributing earnings from each other into it. It's all just what we earn. So we were like, how can we earn more money to help our original music without having to donate money from our own personal accounts? So we were like, well, we all love Motorhead. Like, we've all loved them since, way back. So we said, why don't we try doing something like that? And I said to the other 2 boys, well, it's only going to happen if I can get his register And, because they're in a completely different tuning. I've got to be able to nail his register on vocals to be able to do it. And I said to Scott, you've got to be willing to learn those solos as close to note for note as you can, because we noticed where a lot of other covers / tributes when they do Motorhead, they'll just go, what key's it in? And the guy doing lead will just play something in that key.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I said to Scotty, you got to try and nail it, man. Like Brian Robertson, that sort of stuff, you got to get it. So he's totally taken it on board, and it makes a massive impact, because it's like, well, how would it be if I just jumped into Lemmy's melody lines on vocal and just completely changed it?
Yeah. Yeah. You do a great job musically, though, too. I'm talking about your bass playing, because I saw you guys when you're at the Backroom with the Thin Lizzy tribute middle of last year, whenever it was. But being a bassist, I tend to sort of, and singer too, but mainly a bass player, I tend to focus on that bass performance angle, if you like. And was it Stay Clean or Lost in the Ozone? You did the solo, man, note perfect in that.
It would have been Stay Clean, yeah. Well, that was, I'm a bit, people say I'm just crazy what I can play on the bass and sing in Laceration Mantra, but when it came to doing what Lemmy does, I really had to kind of go back to the drawing board, because he plays so many drone notes and to make the sound bigger. So I really had to, I'd learn a song, for instance, and I'd think, oh, yeah, that's it. But then I'd go back and go, that's not what he's actually doing. What is he doing? And then I'd look at stuff and go, wow, he's playing that A chord and he's using the open A to drone on that.
Yes.
So whenever I learn one of their songs now, I take that on board straight away. It's like, all right, how can I incorporate a D, open D or an open A, or what? And because Lemmy used to do it all the time.
Yeah, he played like a guitarist, didn't he?
Yeah, very much so. And so many open notes where he could, just to make it bigger.
Yeah, he filled it out.
So that was really good for me, because it was like, wow, I've really got to kind of adopt the way he played. Because, I play a lot of chords and just single notes in Laceration Mantra, but he was just different again.
Yeah.
Which was, really fascinating to do, and, really took it on board. It's been great.
How challenging is it for you to sing and play at the same time?
Well, that kind of depends on if it's me doing my own stuff. It's pretty not a problem really. I've developed it over the years, but Scott's a classic, because he'll go, oh yeah, I got this new song, and there's one on the new album where when he showed me the riffs, I was just like, please don't tell me you want me to sing over that. And he's like, oh yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
So, that's going to be I haven't tracked that one yet. But I've got a few options with what I want to do. He wants me, I think, to follow what he's doing. So I'll try to give him that, but I'll also give him a few different options, because, as a bass player, that's where it becomes real fun, because we don't have to do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give him a few different options when I track it, and then he can decide, because it's his song, I know this is what I really like or what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. But look, the other thing too is, look, I've only ever played a Rickenbacker in music stores back when they were a thing. And, and I found them really hard to play, to be honest with you. And I play Music Man basses these days. And but
how good are Music Man? Like the sound.
They're just there. They're just in terms of basses you can buy off the shelf that aren't custom or bespoke, I don't know whether you can get better.
Yeah, I agree. Like their pickups, like even what's their Squire range, is it OL?
Oh yeah,
something.
The Sterling by Music Man range. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, they're still great. Like their sound is awesome, but like I've got a couple now, Ricks, but there's the necks are slightly different on them, and there's one I prefer, the blonde one, which I would have been playing at that show that you saw. I much prefer that neck. I've got a black one as well, but it's the neck. It's a 74, the other one, and the neck is real skinny, like almost like it feels like a toothpick when I play it. I find it harder to play.
Yeah. Yeah, they just and they've got a different resonance about them too, haven't they, Ricks? They
they do.
They feel a lot looser.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, actually. Yeah.
So do you find does that aspect of it occasionally throw up some challenges?
When you're trying it, because I'm always looking at how I can reproduce as close to Lemmy's sound as I can, and sometimes that does throw up a challenge, definitely. But I just try to work with it as best I can to achieve what I want to achieve with his sound. I've got a magical piece of hardware in my live kit which enables me to do that, get as close to as his sound as I can. Because... trying to achieve that through Marshall amps like he used is very hard because he had a lot of his stuff hot wired specifically to achieve that tone. So, but I think people who've seen us live have done nothing but given me nothing but praise for the tone I've got. So I'm going to run with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Do you sometimes? I mean, they're roles that are similar, but the approach is very different. I'm talking about your role in Laceration Mantra and then Motorized. So, do you have a preference for one over the other, or is it just whatever the season is?
Oh, just completely different, really. Like, I embrace both, but they're really different in what they are, you know. Probably my right hand would agree with what you're saying because it's very busy, and Lemmy was very busy with his right hand. But everything else, quite different. Yeah.
How did you find the reaction at that Metal Gods show, that one at Mansfield Tavern with Ripper Owens? Yeah.
Mate, were you there for that?
I was, yeah.
So how did you perceive it?
Oh, I thought it was packed from the get-go. That's what I noticed, which I think the sort of show that it was, and it was a real occasion. I think it sort of brings people out that don't normally go to shows, or maybe have put their gig shoes, they get them out from retirement or something like that. But I thought you guys nailed it, and I thought the rest of the gig was fantastic. Yeah,
I thought we did an excellent job, and the feedback that I had that night was nothing but positive. Like, I've got a really good mate who plays. You'd love to meet him because, seriously, second to none, I rate this guy. He can play anything. He can play Primus. He can play Victor Wooten stuff. He's anything you serve up on bass, he can play it, right?
Yeah.
And he was there with a couple of mates who he said every time he's ever been to a gig with them, all they do is try and point out, pick it to bits. And I know the guys he's talking about.
Yeah. And
he said to me, they just turned to each other and went, wow, that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So I think on that, that was one of those gigs, one of those rare shows, mate, which you know yourself, where each of you looks at each other and goes, that was pretty good.
Yeah. It was a good night. Yeah, I thought you guys knocked it out of the park. It was hard for me to separate I've only seen you twice, so the performance you did at the Backroom, because I love small shows. So I know it's not that great from the ticket gate taking perspective, but there was a handful of us in there that night, mate. But fucking hell, it was a hell of a show to watch, that one at the Backroom as well. But that's the point, though. Serious musicians like you and Scotty, and sorry, your drummer,
the Ant Dog.
Ant Dog, there you go, the Ant Dog. I was going to say Anthony, there you go. I mean, serious musicians know how to turn it on no matter how many people are in the audience.
Yeah, mate, it doesn't matter to us. Like, we love doing it, so it doesn't matter if there's 5 people or 500, There was a show we did years ago in Geelong with Laceration Mantra. We'd never been down there with it before. And a bloke come out because he was mates with Destructor, and I'm still mates with him. This is 15 years ago, and he just said to us after we played down there, mate, that was like you were playing an arena show. Like, it was like there was 15,000 people there. Like, you brought it. And it's like, well, we love doing what we do, and it doesn't matter who's out there. I mean, a gig is about who's out there, but for us, we just bring whatever we've got, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased that you felt we brought it on both shows because, we just love doing it and do what we do. And I think the secret to the one at the Mansfield doing what we did was, so Ripper Owens that night had a backing band, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were all the guys who were in the AC/DC tribute that played second.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So when those guys were totally pro. So when they finished their sound check, which took them like 45 minutes to an hour, there was tons of time. Like they said to us, the stage is yours, boys. Just take as long as you need.
Mm-hmm.
Which the guy that was doing front of house that day was unbelievable. We'd worked with him before at another show at the Mansfield at Loudfest, and nothing was too much trouble for him. He was like, how many wedges do you want round here for vocal? And I said, well, how many can I have? I'll have 4.
Wow.
And it was no problem. He moved everything. So we just had plenty of time. Each of us, that sweet spot you get when you can hear just what you need. Each of us had that. So when we went out there, it was just like brilliant. It was like we were a headliner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that guy's name, actually, that front of house guy's? Can you remember?
Brett Noack, his name is.
Okay.
He works for, I'll send it to you after. I'll find it.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, that night too, the guy that was behind the lighting desk, I've been around this game a long time, like since, when Misery began, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, back in those days in the band, I was playing in rock bands back then, and it was very rare to get a lighting guy that when you finished a song, everything went dark.
Yeah.
Totally pro, right? Now, this guy on that night was like that. And as soon as we finished the first song, everything went dark, and I was like, okay, I haven't had a lighting guy that's done this for a long, long time. Turns out after the fact, I find out this guy had done Motorhead live 3 times when they toured Australia.
Yeah, cool.
So he knew it backwards. He'd worked on the road with the Divinals and the Angels back in the day. Old dude, but totally knows his craft. And you knew it straight away from our side of things, as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
Just magic.
Oh,
Yeah. So good.
Well, there's a bit of a juxtaposition there too, because Laceration Mantra is an extreme metal band. Okay, so Motorhead, playing that stuff, you're going to get a different crowd. You supported Exhumed last year as well. So, So in what way, like obviously they're different gigs, but your approach and the way in which you look at the stagecraft element of it, in what way is it really different when you're doing, say, a support to Exhumed with Laceration Mantra compared to Motorized?
Okay. I don't know what people listening to this will think, but from a frontman's perspective, I've learned over the years with extreme metal, don't be scared to rip into the crowd. If you have to abuse them and get them up the front and do what's necessary, then just do it. So from that perspective, where it's my original music and a totally different genre, that's how I approach it with extreme metal. Whereas when I'm doing Motorhead stuff, it's completely different because I'm in total awe and respect of the artist who performed that. And I treat their audience who wants to see them a completely different way. I'm very respectful and thankful to them for allowing us to bring Motorhead back to them in a live venue.
Yeah, getcha.
Not to say that I don't respect people who come to see Laceration Mantra, oh my God, without them, what is it? Like I said, a live show is nothing if the punters aren't there. But I like to rip into them and fire them up. with what's to come,
Especially the
from
Exhumed
extreme
crowd.
metal.
I mean, the Exhumed crowd are pretty. I think half of the guys probably went in there plastered, did they, to watch the show? So you can really sort of rip into them in that regard.
Oh, look, I had quite a few people say to me that night at Exhumed, oh, it wouldn't have mattered whether Exhumed were here tonight. We came to see Laceration Mantra, Pestilence and Cryptovore.
Shit. Okay.
Which it was a really good lineup.
Yeah.
But, Exhumed bring things to another level. Again, they're seasoned performers. They've been around the scene a long, long time. It was just a great show in Brisbane. I don't know what the lineups were, what the supports that your mate did in the other major cities, but I tell you what, for Brisbane, that was a coup to get that lineup.
You're not wrong, especially when you see a band of your calibre there being the first support. It's a hell of a thing. Whether the band, it could be anybody, but in this case, Exhumed know that they've got some competition. They certainly do.
Yeah, well, we like to bring it. Like we get on well with your mate. They tend to really do some good lineups, and we work with Skeletal too. We were on right before them, and when we perform with internationals, we like to bring the intensity as much as we possibly can, because we know that these guys, they play on the biggest stages in America and Europe, and we want them to walk away from Australia going, holy shit.
Yeah.
We want them to think about, shit, those Aussie bands, they really brought it to the table, Because there was a show we did before COVID with Marduk, and I think it was Marduk, Gorguts and us, and when we watched Marduk side of stage, Scott and Antog were there, and I said, we like to bring intensity, but when you saw Marduk perform from side of stage, like that level, I said to the boys, that's where we need to be. Again, this is coming from a band that's played all major European festivals they're able to play. That's the level where they are, and it's great to work with bands like that because you really see it lets you know where you have to be.
You're not wrong. Did you get to talk to Morgan very much after that show?
No, they were Marduk were very, very they turned up just before they were due to go on. They were in the zone kind of thing.
Okay. Bit like
they had their own space, and they just walked on, did the show, and then they were gone again.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going on the 70,000 Tonnes of Metal cruise, and Marduk are on that, and I really want to talk to Morgan on that.
Yeah, more power to you. That'd be fantastic to get his ear. That would be great.
He just doesn't do a lot of interviews. A lot of them are, like Sam Oth and stuff. A lot of these guys are post-interview. They don't. It's already all out there, of course. Not as far as they're concerned, but you get the vibe that they're just there to perform, and that's it. To your point.
Oh yeah, that was totally how I felt that particular day. Yeah. And like if that's how they work and that's how they bring it, yeah, great, do it. I don't have any. What's the word I'd be talking about? If that's what they need to do to bring what they did, then more power to them in my book.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you say has been the highlight of being a musician so far for you?
Oh, geez. It's for me. It's like I love hearing. So when you're an artist in Australia and you're playing death metal, the money that you can generate from it and the live performance that you can get, it's a pretty tough world, So from where I am and my perspective, so for instance, if you were talking to Scott and he was talking about Misery and you're at the level where they're at, it's completely different with the money that you can generate and where you can be in the live performance arena compared to where Laceration Mantra are. Does That makes sense?
Makes sense, yeah. I
Yeah.
understand.
So we're climbing up the ladder, but we haven't achieved that status yet. So from my point of view in that genre, in the live performance arena, it's hard to generate the money and where you'd like to be in the live performance arena at the moment. So for me right now, if we're talking just about me, I love hearing the songs that I've written back in the recorded medium and just sit there and go, fuck yeah. Like to have that come back to me, and it's brought to life where it was in my head when I first came up with it. Working with musicians at the caliber of Scott and Anthony, when I first come up with how I want that song to be and how I envisage it to be in my head, and then it comes back to me like that, or better. For me right now, that's more of a highlight, I think, for me than live. I still love doing shows with Laceration Mantra, like whether it be supporting Exhumed or Marduk or doing Brute Fest like we did in Sydney last year. Fantastic. But I wish I could generate, on the business side of things, more of the money I need to move the band forward. But I know I can't do that yet because I haven't done enough of the hard yards yet, if that makes sense, in the death metal genre to get me to that level.
You're talking about more tour supports and maybe taking it abroad?
Look, definitely taking it abroad would be good, but I don't know if you've done much research on taking death metal abroad, but it's a very hard road. I'd like to do Europe before I'd like to do America, because I think they appreciate extreme metal more in Europe than they do in America, but so much of it over there is much harder to get a foothold in, and much harder to get the right people to work with who are going to give you what I need. So, for instance, when I'm out here and we worked with Incantation when they went through Bleed Records, and I tour managed the Queensland leg of that tour. I got an insight into more of the business side of things when I was working with Incantation and Nervo Chaos, because I was working with them at Crowbar, driving them around, picking them up, etc. You got to see more of the insight into, all right, so the money generated from that show is certain percentages given to the bands as buyout money, and they're working with that money generated from that show to keep them on the road, and the rest of that percentage, and then the rest of the money is going to the promoter to go to the next show in Sydney or wherever it may be. Now, when you go to Europe, for instance, I'd like to try and somehow work with people that understand that, well, us as a band, we want buyout money to get alcohol, get food, get fuel in the van, to pay for the backline we're using from show to show, right? That's extremely hard to do in Europe. And from what I've been able to glean so far, I mean, if you can put me in touch with anyone who can work with that, great. I'm trying to get a foothold now, but I'm finding bands tend to have to go over there on their first time and just basically flush 10 grand or more down the toilet and pay for a tour guy and pay for a vehicle and just go bang, 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 and the shows will all be there, but there's no money coming back.
Yeah, you're right, actually. And then that's assuming that you're dealing with a reputable promoter, which is
exactly
odds on that you will these days, but there's still those pitfalls occasionally. It's still very challenging in South America, I understand.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky there because I've got a foot in the door with Nervo Chaos, and he's a massive promoter in South America. So I know with him, if I contacted him now and said, we want to do Latin America, can we jump on a tour with you guys or whatever, he'd love to do it. So I got an in with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Nervo Chaos. When I was in Tokyo, they literally walked past me. I was only in Tokyo in October, and the guys walked past me, and I didn't want to be a punisher or anything like that because they were doing the touristy thing, I think, or walking around and taking the sights in Shibuya, which is a prefecture in Tokyo. You know, the really busy one with the zebra crossing that goes in about 1 million different directions.
Yeah. I know the one.
I walked past them there and I thought, God, it's a small world, isn't it?
Oh, mate, if you'd have said hello to those boys and said, you know, that you do this, and they would have embraced you. Like, they live for metal. And I've never met a bunch of guys who are more road dogs than those guys are when it comes to metal. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable, you know. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about, actually, we just mentioned Japan. Japan and Southeast Asia, have there ever been opportunities for you to do that, especially even with motorised?
Oh, look, I haven't really. Motorised, it's the tip of the iceberg with regards to trying to go offshore. I mean, there's the stumbling block I have with motorised when it comes to going offshore is there's just so many Motorhead tributes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, there was a bunch of girls called Motor Babe who are based in the States that tour there a lot, and they want to go offshore, but it's like there was a guy from Gladstone that was commenting about, you should come to Australia, blah, blah, blah. And I sent him a couple of links to us straight away because he probably doesn't even know we exist.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it, with socials? Yeah, I know.
It really is. Like, yeah. And then, and you know, there's, you know, you've got Motor Headache in England, and there's a bunch of them in Europe. You know, I'll toot my own horn and say, well, European Motorhead tributes struggle because they've all got the wrong accent.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the Americans, from what I've seen, are pretty good. I think there's one out of New York that's pretty good, but aside from that, I'm going to wheel my own barrow and say I haven't seen one that I think gets close to where we are.
Yep.
But England, I think Motor Headache, he's got it pretty spot on. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's a lot around, which makes it hard to try and get I think from my point of view, if I was a promoter, I'd be going, well, it's going to cost me a lot less if I just employ, you know, these guys up the road or someone from Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you've got the very solid contacts there and there's an established pathway. But it's an interesting point, isn't it? Insofar as, so you can take an originals band overseas and you're almost guaranteed to lose 10 grand before you start.
Yeah, that's right.
Or you can take a tribute show or a covers show or the thing that you got going on with motorised overseas, and there's already an inbuilt audience. There's already people there. You know for a fact people don't turn up.
So, as Scott said this to me, I suppose we're lucky in one way that if we really wanted to do it and we could find the right people, that's the key, mate. Yeah. Finding the right people. We could do both.
I was just going to say that, mate. There's nothing to stop you, you know, going to just using Tokyo again. You know, on the Thursday night you're doing motorised, and then you book a club show because there's plenty of clubs over there that'll play metal, as you know, in Tokyo, no doubt. With Laceration Mantra, mate, you're already there. There you go.
Yeah, look, I've found it a little bit hard trying to get a foothold into work to finding promoters in Japan who'll do metal.
Oh,
like
really?
I did have a contact with the Akafusa Death Fest.
Okay.
Before COVID, that was considering putting us on, but the bill was full that year. But I haven't followed up on that.
All right, gotcha. Yep.
So whether he'd be willing to look at that, I don't know. But again, like you say, it's just finding the right people that are going to do the right thing by you and can understand where you're coming from, and hopefully help you out can see the way we want to do things and go, yeah, you know, that's doable. You know, I don't want to ask the world first time over there. I'd love to just cover costs and maybe make a bit of money to, you know, have a few drinks and whatever, keep us on the road. But that's ideally what we'd like to do. So if you've got anyone that you know of that we can talk about afterwards that might be able to help us out, great.
Yeah, I don't, but I tell you why I've got such a good feeling about Japan after spending I was there for 10 days with the family, and whilst the kids and the wife and the mother-in-law and my family were off doing retail opportunities as they tend to do with kids, and I got to have a look at all the music shops. That was the beauty of it, and I was just talking to Matty Wilcock not too long ago about it, from Shotgun Mistress and Werewolves and stuff, and mate, they've got shops over there where an entire wall is just Gibson guitars. So over there, and the thing is, mate, over there they're $5,000 and $6,000, whereas over here I can tell you they're like, maybe not double, but they're certainly 30 or 40% more. And it's a bit like, remember what guitar shops used to be back in the day for us with Billy Hyde's and stuff? Remember the one in the Valley that used to be there? They're like 10 times that size, and they're multi-level. And mate, they've got, as a bassist, I'll share this with you, like Alembic, Status, these relict, well, not even relic, they're road used Fender P and J basses and stuff, and I got to play all of this stuff, and Les Claypool's bass, so Carl Thompson was there too, and I was able to play all of this sort of stuff. So I was able to do some of the Mark King stuff on the Status bass. I just love Status basses, and Mark King's playing, and then a little kid comes in next to me and starts playing similar stuff, like all of the slap and pop stuff and the Victor Wooten stuff as well. And my point in and around all of that, mate, is there's the market there that supports this sort of thing. Whereas, as you know here, mate, I'm not saying it's going away. I think the fans like you and I dyed on the wall will never ever not do this. We'll always do this until the day we die. But the outlets and the opportunities aren't as great as what they are in a place like that. And that's my point there. So I think you'll find one eventually, and then, mate, you'll find another place, another home for you to go to, and
I would love that. Like, so many people have said to me, "Oh, Japan is unbelievable. You've got to go there." Like, and I really want to, because it's just, I see stuff to do with Tokyo, and it just blows my mind just how big that place is. Like, it's just like something out of what's it, Logan's Run or one of those. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being just dropped in that and going, all right, here you are.
It's such a good place, honestly, Rob. You guys would love it over there. It's honestly, the people are just so fucking good, and they're just nice, and it's so different to some of the shit we're dealing with here these days. The essays on the trains and all of the bullshit that we've got to put up with, mate. They would be mortified if their society turned into that where we're going.
Yeah. I've got a fair few people I know in the punk scene, and they've been over there fairly regularly, and they're the same. The Japanese, it's funny. I've worked this out about them. When they are into something, it becomes their whole life. Like the punk scene over there is just unbelievable. Like, these people that were into it, they get together for these shows, and it's just like it's another world, and then they'll all jump on the train and go their separate ways after it. But it's like, while they're there, it was like many years ago now, we got to do a show with it was a very early Laceration Mantra show, and we got to play with Coffins.
Nice. Great.
I forget who else was on that night. We opened it, and I can't remember if Coffins were the headliner or not. I'd have to look that up. But meeting those guys was just, a real exposure to me for their culture, because there was only one of them who spoke any English, and we all found ourselves bowing because they were.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a real eye-opener. And, again, when you saw them play live, talk about bringing it. Yeah, they were definitely unbelievable.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. A lot of, there's Psy, there's a couple of bands over there too that are just all-time, like Psy.
And I love Kotsu Totsu as well.
Okay, I'll check them out. But the other thing... But sorry, you go. You're right.
Oh, the bass player, singer from... You'd love him, mate. Talk about, he's got everything. He's got the chops.
Cool, man.
Oh, yeah, you got to check them out, mate. They're amazing.
It's kind of the next big scene, really, Japan, because I've been showing my daughter this band called Hanabi, which are a bit like baby metal, but they're musicians. They're not just sort of dancing and shit with a metal band behind them. These girls can fucking play, I assure you. I saw them I hate Brightside, right, but I thought, bugger it, I'll go into Bright. So it's just so cramped and you're like a sardine in there. And
I know.
Barely see, mate, you know, up the back. And it's just such a shit venue for what it is, mate, to be honest. But anyway, I digress. I saw this band Hanabi in there because I wanted to just check out the vibe, and man, they got it going on, and these girls must be like 21 or 22 or something, man. But it veers from that Harajuku little girl thing, I don't know how else to describe it, to full on extreme metal.
Yeah, right.
And they bring it. And they do it. So they're accomplished and they're into it. And they're too young to be playing for decades, that's for sure. But mate, they've certainly studied their craft and they're dedicated to it.
Yeah, that's the thing with them, the Japanese. They once they immerse themselves in something, they are just unbelievable. Yeah. So there was another one we played with. I'm going back now. We've been going like 15 years now.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to like 10 years ago. It's another one we played with. The name escapes me at the moment. But the look of them, they looked like they were all Cenobites from Hellraiser. Like they had all floor length things they were wearing, and just again, amazing death metal and so immersed into it. Just can't remember the name of them at the moment, but they were so good to work with too.
Yeah,
like amazing musicians, and it just I'd love to go back over there and just work with Coffins or them in Japan on their home turf. How good would that be?
Oh,
man.
It'd be epic. It'd be Well, that's the hope for you guys. But mate, you know, we talk about playing for decades as you certainly have been. Who inspired you initially?
Oh, gee. Well, you know, I've been a Motorhead fan for so long. But when I was way younger, I was into rock. Back in the early 90s, I was playing in rock bands, and we were managed by the guy that used to be in the Hitman, and he used to manage Screaming Tribesmen.
Nice.
Yeah, and then so I was into that, and then I kind of morphed. Like metal was always kind of in the background, but it was when I got into goth for a while, and I was a full-on punk for a while years ago, had short orange hair, and music. I'm probably like you, mate. Like music for me, my parents could never understand me.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Because music just became the dominant force for me. And, geez, who would it be with metal that really inspired me, that got me into it? I think the thing that really tweaked me back in the day was Rain in Blood. Like when I first heard that, and it was around that time, probably there was like, that's when I first heard Deicide, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Legion?
And a Legion for me. Look, if we're going to talk about albums for me that sum up death metal and what it is to me as a genre, Legion is it for me. I do love the first album, but there's something about that second one that there's just an ominous feeling to the second one that the first one kind of doesn't have.
No, I agree.
I think it's the production for me with the second one. It's just, I talked to Scott about it when we're talking about production. It's like, okay, it's good to have your sounds of the instruments how you want them, but then you've kind of got, I call it an orb that kind of surrounds the production.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to try, and I notice a lot of stuff that comes out of Nuclear Blast now tends for me to be like, if you look at New Suffocation, the sounds themselves still they're great sounds, don't get me wrong, but the album tends to be so clean and pristine that for me it's doing death metal a disservice, if that makes sense.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
So when you go back to looking at stuff that's Once Upon the Cross and Legion, there's a feeling, an overall feeling in that production that's just ominous and just isn't quite right. That for me, death metal should encompass. Like, I don't like the terms death metal used, like, for instance, melodic death metal. Like, to me, that's a conundrum. That's like a paradox to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how it can't be melodic. Death metal was created, and Possessed has said this, that we wanted to create the most brutal genre of music, the most unsettling genre of music that has ever been created. And that's what, to me, the essence of death metal should be. Like, it's got to be that. It can't. That's what Laceration Mantra bases its credo on. It's got to be extreme. It's got to be out there. It's got to punch you in the fucking face when you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And not, oh, that's a nice whatever run he did in that scale, and how nice and pristine and clean that is. That's not death metal.
Mm-hmm.
To me, anyway. It's death metal's got to be searing and ominous and scary and just in your face, and if it doesn't feel like it's just need you in the balls, then for me it's not real death metal.
So you like that Morrisound sound?
Yeah, definitely. Like, when you look back on an album like Altars of Madness now, man, when you think that was recorded on a reel, and when you think of those drums that he was doing then, and that album is timeless. Like, it just stands up to this day. Like, man, when you think when that was done, when those albums were done, and even an album like Effigy from Suffo, like, I think for me, classic. Like, Despise the Sun, I think for me, for Suffocation is the pinnacle. Like, like, man, and I just find I've really noticed, and, I'm probably showing my age here and that we've been around a long time, but I'm really starting, and not until very recently, maybe over the last 18 months, I've really started to notice a divide between what's coming out now with younger bands and what's come before. Does that make sense?
I think so. Are you talking about the genre splicing element where metalcore and deathcore have become more the norm in death metal? Like, there's elements of that?
Yeah, kind of. And I don't... Look, I'm not... it's not that I don't... I'll listen to everything, right? Being a musician, I like to embrace as much music as I possibly can and try and see elements of it in it that I find good. Like, I'll even listen to country, I'll listen to hip hop, I'll listen to everything and try and find, is there something in there that I can that I like, that I can find, that I think, yeah, okay, I get that, I know where they're coming from, But I'm noticing now that for an aficionado that's come from where we've come from with death metal and the brutality that has come before, I'm finding that now they're just not... It's just... I just don't think that can be... That what has come before can ever be surpassed when it comes to brutality and death metal as a genre. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. I understand your point completely. Actually, yeah, I've noticed the shift too, and there's the broadly speaking, we can blame Metallica for it potentially, given what they did on that album from 2008, whatever that was called. Sorry, I'm not invested in Metallica these days. I can't remember the names, but
I'll tell you what, on that subject.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard it, but okay, so 72 Seasons came out, right? Someone, I don't know who it was, but you'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it, but hats off to him for doing it. he took the songs from that album and reproduced them with the production from Killamore.
Oh my God, yeah.
Man,
yeah.
You've got to find it and look for it because they're so much better.
I know. I look, they're more power to them. They can do whatever the hell they want. And I made the point the other night, and I think it's a valid one, which is that if you take all of heavy metal, so everything, maybe remove Iron Maiden and Slipknot, maybe, but if you put Metallica on one side of the scale and all of other heavy metal, including extreme metal, on the other side, it balances.
Yep.
They're just that big these days, Metallica, and they're an industry, you know. But it's
they are.
But it's I saw them at the entertainment centre there in 2010, and like, fuck it, Lars just isn't up to it anymore. He hasn't been for a while now, and it's not just my opinion. Like, you watch the videos and the whole band slows down, and you see James looking back at him, and I don't know, were you at that gig at Boondall that night?
No. I'll be brutally honest. I've never seen him live.
Well, you're not missing much, to be frank, and I know I'll get hate mail for it, but I don't care anymore. There's too many fanboys out there that just, fucking Metallica are the fucking best, you know, like the Dave Mustaine fanboys and stuff, and it's just odd because really those bands haven't made essential music for decades now. Really.
I'll tell you who I was surprised at. I really enjoyed Megadeth's new one.
Oh, I haven't vibed on their stuff in a long time, brother, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, look, this is coming from me. Like, if we're going to divide the two camps and say Megadeth or Metallica back in the day, I always tended to go to the Metallica camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried with Megadeth numerous times, but it really didn't do it for me. But this new one, people had said to me, no, you need to give it a go. And I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I just absolutely adored Megadeth through you know, I got into them, you know, because I'm 45, so not Rust, the one after Rust in Peace, Symphony, a mental blank, sorry, Countdown to Extinction. That was the album, and then, you know, Euthanasia and stuff, and then you go back and you get the other stuff, and So Far So Good, So What was the one that really stuck with me, and I had about 4 or 5 albums of theirs that I just loved back in the 90s, and for Metallica there was only 2. There was, I, like everybody, mainly I heard about them through the Black Album 91, but then I was in a boarding house, right? So other blokes had Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning. I went and found them, and I was like, "Fuck, this is heaps better," you know. But it's it's really
Killamore and Master for me are the two that I go to.
Well, that sound on Killamore can't be beat from the perspective that you can hear everything, the bass playing, and Lars was trying to keep up. The truth about it was Lars was trying to keep up with Cliff. So Cliff's a very, very tight, very melodic bassist, but he's also
he's unbelievable. Yeah,
he can be loose too, though. I've heard the stems, and some of it you go, wow, okay, so he's vibing. He's got his own thing going on. He wasn't afraid to sort of, I'm not going to call them mistakes, but you know, he wasn't afraid to go outside of the template either.
Yeah, I think that was the thing with him, though. He was open to everything.
Yeah.
Look how much they suffered harmonically without him in the mix.
Yeah, well, they just don't. On a personal level, they still haven't gotten over having lost him. I don't think really. Because,
I agree, 100%.
Because Rob is one of the finest musicians. Rob is the best musician in that band, in my view. Rob Trujillo.
Oh, he's an amazing player.
Yeah. And apparently, and what I hear from people who've done business with him, met him and stuff, like just random things like people bumping into him. Who was I talking to? The bassist singer from Enslaved. I can't remember his name now. Good guy, top fella. But he was doing some crewing at one of the festivals that they weren't playing at, and he was doing moving some pallets with a forklift backstage somewhere or something, and Rob just came up to them and asked them where the walking trails were in the mountains that were behind, because they were somewhere in Norway or Sweden or what have you. It was just a regular bloke just asking for some directions and a bit of help, you know. And to be honest, man, I don't think I could imagine Lars doing that.
Yeah, he's I don't know how to describe Lars. When you look back in the day, you have to say that he was setting the bar. Like some of the stuff that he did on Master of Puppets, that was all new and next level. But then when you compare a guy like him to Steve Asheim from Deicide, and they're both the same age, and you look at how they've progressed as musicians during that time. Well, enough said.
Well, Steve also writes that band's music too.
Yeah, I know.
Steve's a writer, yeah.
But like Steve just embraced any new techniques and like, I have to learn that.
Yeah.
And, you could put Steve behind the kid in Slipknot and he'd be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and same with Gene Hoglan too. Gene's I don't know whether Gene's a writer, but Gene I love his drumming.
Oh, and he's a really nice bloke too. Like when we played with Dark Angel,
yeah,
he was a great dude, really nice guy. Yeah. It's rare to meet a wanker in extreme metal these days. There's been a couple, not many, to be honest, but it's rare to meet them, especially these seasoned guys, these guys that are over 45, past 50. Mate, they're just so great. From my perspective, is just having these conversations. It's like talking to you, man. It's like just a normal conversation with some of these guys, and then it's even a bit not stranger, but it's interesting afterwards. You end up exchanging, emails and text messages or direct messages and stuff afterwards. Yeah, John McGinty from Incantation was like that. He was a great guy, really, really good. I got to talk to him a lot, and really, really nice fella. They all were. But he was just a really down to earth guy, and
Yeah, actually, I met John down at the Melbourne show because, this recent run they didn't play Brisbane, so I flew down to Melbourne with my wife and we made a weekend of it. But he was standing next to the merch booth and I had a good chat to him down there, and he was. I said, "Oh look, I've come down from up here," and I could tell he was like, "Man, that's fucking cool, man. Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it." This sort of thing. It wasn't disingenuous at all,
Oh yeah, he's very much like that. Yeah, he's all about the fans and the people that, like the band. And you've got to be like that because what's the point of having your head up your ass? Like, if people don't buy your music and buy tickets to your shows, well, where are you?
Yeah. In my experience, Rob, that has come from the local scene, that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Haven't had a lot of it, but occasionally, even with the show, there was a period there where I wouldn't. I was really being selective about, because I would get a ton of emails and messages, not a ton, but plenty from local people wanting to come on the show, and then I'd have the conversation or whatever, and it wasn't like this, man. It wasn't an interface, It was they weren't. I'll say now, I mean, they're in their 20s too, and early 30s, so they hadn't lived enough life yet and understood that we're all human and we're all doing our thing, and we're just having a chat here. I'm not really a means of your promotional exercise or what have you. Like, you're gonna reach a couple of hundred people through me, but apart from that, that's it. It's not going to boost your profile a hell of a lot. And I think they get the idea after that, and they don't even share that to conversation or whatever afterwards. And I think that's fine by me. But it's just, I just noticed that I'm more likely to, Eric Rutan, for example, has done the introduction on my show.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, and I've had a few conversations with him too, and you just find these guys that have proven themselves again and again and again. They're just the nicest fellas.
Oh, they are. I remember it wasn't long after Dimebag got killed, and Eric knew him pretty well, and I bought a shirt to commemorate him around that time, and I just happened to have it on, and I'd gone to see Hate Eternal's first show.
Yep.
When they played at Her Majesty's, and I wasn't going to talk to him because I was a bit in awe back then, because that's a long time ago, and he was rolling up his leads after the show, and I was thinking, wow, this guy's like played Wacken with Morbid Angel. I was like, do I want to say hello? Anyway, I got up the courage and I went and said hello to him, and he was so good, and he was so down to earth, and and he saw the shirt and he was like, oh man, like, wow. He was kind of a bit taken aback, just by the shirt. And it was like, when you think about that and what happened there, and it's just, and you can go back to that time when I think a lot of the younger ones just, I mean, I know I love their metal and all that, and there's just been so much that guys like you and I have been through over the time in the various heavy genres where so much has happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Just quickly about Eric too. I had that moment with him too, where I was talking. We had a talk for a couple of hours, and I think at one point I said, but he was talking about, he was being very humble. I said, but
Eric, you're in fucking Morbid Angel, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Like you're the man. Like, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you have these moments with these guys, but of course they don't walk around thinking, I'm in Morbid Angel, so,
No, well, if they're decent blokes, they don't. Like you say, they're just doing their thing and they just happen to pick up a guitar when they were like 10 or whatever it was, and everything's just gone on from there, Like, I've said to a few people and it's funny, like, because I never think of myself at all in that type of a role, that I could be like that to some people.
Yes, yeah.
And I know there's been a couple and they have gone to buy tickets off me and I've said, oh, yeah, meet me at such and such, whatever. And I've had a conversation with them like I'm having with you, and they'll say at the end of the conversation, oh, man, I can't believe I was so nervous that I was coming to meet you and I wasn't sure what I was going to say to you and stuff. And I said, mate, really? Like, I said to them, just to remember this. If you're ever going to meet anyone and you start to get anxiety or feelings like that about it, just remember they take a shit just like you do.
Indeed.
The only difference is they happen to pick up the bass or learn the drums or the guitar back in the day, and they've just gone on with that and you didn't go down that road. That's the only difference.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you this. I'll tell people listening this for nothing. The only people, like, in terms of a cohort of people that I've ever thought I'd never want to deal with you fuckheads ever again are real estate agents, because I'm a journalist, right? So I had to interview some. Right. There was a week there where I had to interview some real estate agents, and the really interesting thing is, and this goes to exactly the point that we were talking about a moment ago. So I'd speak to these people that had made, they thought they were important anyway, and they're young, and fuck, they gave me some attitude, because I'd ask a question, go, well, I'm not going to answer that because I haven't thought about the question, and I'm like, what the hell is this, and they just being rude, mate. And then one of my last conversations was with a guy called Michael Palin, and he's Australia's most, in terms of net sales, he sells something like $1 billion worth of property each quarter, something ridiculous, like astronomical sums of money because of the echelon he's dealing with. He's selling property in Barangaroo down there in Sydney at Circular Quay there, and he's selling at that level to the agent and billionaires and stuff. And mate, he was the nicest fucking guy out of a lot of them. This guy.
Well, that's why he's selling $1 billion worth of quarter.
Mate, he was genuinely interested in the conversations that I was having with all these extreme metal luminaries. And I know that because he asked me to text him the podcast link for Spotify. I did, and then he responded to me. He goes, yeah, I enjoyed that. Or he goes, yeah, it sounds really good, man. Thanks very much for that. But it was like a period of time afterwards. It wasn't like straight away, like, thanks, fuck off. And I was like, man, that's how you do it. That's how it is, man. You just be a regular person no matter who you are, and don't carry yourself with any airs of, of importance, because there's no point.
No, absolutely no point. All you're doing is putting a wall up between you and the people that you're trying to reach.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really interesting interaction, that one there. I think it was after a pretty long day dealing with some of those little wankers, and then speaking to him, and I thought he was just going to... I mean, I didn't have any preconceptions, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he was like, who are you, vermin? Why do you want to speak to me for? But completely the opposite, Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And it just goes to show you that... people are people, and, a lot of them are really good, but there's always going to be some that just aren't.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So I've been really looking forward, and you said, do you want to have a chat? I'm like, oh, sweet. This will be fun.
Mate, it's I've long admired the work that you've been in, and what you guys I think are creating together. In Laceration Mantra as well. I mean, look, to give you an idea, man, like I'm talking. I was talking to Tony, Tony Champ, of course, and I was talking to him at getting some tattoos from me, because I actually want to get tattooed again, because mine are from the late bloody 90s, right? So I don't want to do cover-ups or anything like that, but I thought it's probably about time. I haven't drunk in a long time, and I always said to myself, if I stop drinking, then I'm going to start doing some of this sort of stuff. So that was sort of the reward to myself sort of thing. And so I'm going to be... I'll be hitting up Tony sometime in the near future, and I'll be asking him that. But a lot of that is because of the work that I've seen. My introduction to him came through you guys and through Misery.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you know that's the thing, mate. It's a bit of an ecosystem, isn't it? And you're a part of that in the scene.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
You know, it's when you're about the most. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not pissing in your pocket, but between you guys and Misery, you're about the most prominent extreme metal bands in Brisbane outside of Portal, surely.
Well, longevity-wise, you probably have to say so, yeah. I mean, I suppose but that's what I find with death metal. You've got to, there is a lot of exposure for it nowadays, but it's still a lot of networking, a lot of gigging, a lot of overtime work that's around, you know, which was what I was saying before. I think you've got to be in the genre 20 years plus before you really get noticed.
So true, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think more than anything it would be through that, just word of mouth, getting around, you guys need to check these blokes out, whatever, which has got Misery to where they've got to over time. Plus, you know, they've got such extensive discography over that period too, which we don't have that level of releases yet. So every release you do is also another step up the chain, you know. So probably... if you're going to talk longevity and word of mouth, yeah, and Portal they're definitely up there because they made such an impact, you know. Took me a long time to get Portal. I didn't get them in the beginning at all. And until someone said to me, no, don't treat them as a death metal band. When you listen to them live or put an album on, treat them like they're a soundscape to a horror movie.
I'd agree with that, you know. And
that really is what made me go, yeah. When I looked at it from that perspective, it was like, okay, now I get it, you know, like, yeah.
Are you mates with the fellas?
I'm really good mates with Shane.
Mm-hmm.
The other guys, the drummer I don't think I've had any interaction with him at all, but the other guys here and there, yeah. The bass player, yeah. We've had a few conversations over the years, and the two guitar players, yeah. One of them's in Vomitor as well now, isn't he?
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. Okay. Yep, that's cool.
I think... There's two of them. I think one of them plays in Vomitor, and he's also in a new thing called Magus Terra with the singer from Pestilence. So I think that's one of the guitarists from Portal is in that. And the other guy from Portal, I think he was in The Dead for a while on bass.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened. I think they've kind of vanished into the ether now. I don't think they're going anymore.
Oh, right.
But,
okay.
Yeah, I talk to Shane all the time. We're good mates.
Oh, that's good stuff, mate. Yeah, or look, it'd be, I mean, obviously, you know, you start thinking of, there are a lot of really good underground bands in Brisbane at the moment. You got a guy like Ian Redmond that can do sound for a lot of this stuff as well. So, I mean, there's just, yeah, you know Ian, obviously, you know, there's...
Oh, look, bit of a quick story about Ian. So, first show we did with Motorized... second show actually. We did a under the radar one at the Backroom one night. Went on last just to get myself in that vibe live. But anyway, we did this show. It was through Jabber Entertainment. It was called Mansfields of Rock. It was all tribute acts.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a pre-production meeting, and they were talking about, all right, we've got Kevin Hennings is going to do front of house. Anyone else got their own guy coming in, and there's like 6 reps from the bands there, and I've stuck my hand up, and they're like, the honchos from Jabber are like, oh yeah, so who's doing front of house for you? And I said, oh, Ian Redmond. And they're like, you're fucking joking. I said, no. And they're like, oh, my fucking God, we haven't heard from him in so long. He used to do shows with us like years ago, did a show down in, where was it? What's the snowfields? Threadbow.
Okay, yeah.
So Ian's got a rep with them. They all know him. And they're like, fuck yeah, it'll be so good to see Ian again, you know.
Yeah.
And, he turned up on the day and touched base with everybody. It was really good, you know.
Yeah, that's how I'm part of that same scene because I play covers, right? So I know Nathan really well from Jabber.
Right,
Yeah, I'm good
awesome.
mates with Nathan. Yeah, so It's that's I was in a band called Cross Trigger as well, and that's basically we're all part of that scene. The guys in Dale and Burst and those guys, and that's the relationship with Ian came about through those guys. He recorded the EP that we did and did sound for us as well, and I make a point of it. I usually at just about every extreme metal show I go to, I see him there or thereabouts, and I always make a point of bumping into him, and I've told this story a couple of times too. But he's such a fucking good guy, and I'll give you an example.
He is, man.
But I was booked to catch up with Kurt from Metal Church, not the recent time they came out, but just before. We get along, so I thought we'd catch up after the show upstairs at the old Crowbar there, and the fucking security guard. I mean, I wasn't drinking, but he was not letting me anywhere near it. He was being a real fucking prick, actually.
Yeah.
You know how they are sometimes. Like it just everybody's a cunt and you're one too, sort of thing. And Ian came over and argued the point with him. And,
okay, good.
And I'm like, fucking hell, man, that's a brother right there. That's for someone to do that. And I ended up getting upstairs and being able to catch up with Kurt and poor old Mike Howe before he passed away as well. And,
it's good that Ian did that because Ian knows you. And Ian knows who you are and why you would want to do it, and you're not a dickhead. So that's really good that he did that. Really good.
I know, that's what I mean. It shows the camaraderie, though, doesn't it? I know,
definitely. Yeah.
I'll never forget that he did that. It's you could say it's a little thing, it's a neither thing or whatever, but I mean, this security guys, I'd seen him. I'm pretty sure it was the same guy drag somebody out almost by their bloody hair out of the Watain gig. So I thought, some of them, what some of them are like. They're either really cool or they got chips and.
If I'm ever on stage at anything extreme and I see any of these guys stepping out of line, I'm calling them on it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
I bet. Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet, but I always keep my eye on them.
Yeah, well, I just noticed too, the Islander boys are usually pretty chill and they can handle things, but some of these white guys that are on fucking steroids, mate, they let the power go to their head. And
yep.
it's just something that I've noticed and observed, and there was just that one interaction there that I had that just sort of cemented it for me, in my opinion, about Ian. So I haven't even told him about that story. It was a lot going on that day, but
you'll like this from a bass player's point of view. So so Motorized had done their set, right, and we walk off and went out. Scotty and Ant went out the back for a smoke, and Ian comes out. And he's like, "Oh, that was good." And I said, "Yeah, we had fun." And he goes, "Oh, you'll appreciate this." I said, "What?" He goes, "Oh, you were that loud on stage. I didn't even need to have you in the front of house mix."
That's a hell of a compliment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And when we were sound checking that day, the other guys are going, "You're not actually going to play that loud, are you?" And I went, "It's a Motorhead tribute. What do you reckon?"
Fucking oath I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. But I guess the question I was going to ask after all that, with Portal and, with Scotty and Misery and Damon and stuff, has there ever been discussions about doing like call it what you will, but effectively the best of the Brisbane Underground and put it on at the Mansfield or the Backroom or something?
Well, no, there hasn't been, but I really don't know with Portal anymore. I could imagine they've had a plethora of offers to get back together. But, I don't know whether they ever will. Just don't know. You just don't know with them. No idea. It's never been floated. With a problem you always have where you want to get Laceration Mantra and Misery on the same bill is the poor old ant dog. You can't get them one after another. It's just like we played the Canberra Metal Fest in, was it 22? Went down there. So he wanted Misery to go down there and Brad said, "Oh, yeah, Laceration Mantra, come down. It's only one extra flight and accommodation,
Mm-hmm.
But we had to have, because I said to him, well, I was negotiating on stage slots and whatever, and I wanted a reasonably late slot, but it was like always had to bear in mind, well, Misery are headlining, so, all right, we got to have at least like an hour between us and so he can recoup before he has to do Misery. Which he did he performed so well that night. Like, the set we did was just really, really good. And then he had the time to recoup. And then, their show was really, really good. You know, so, but you got to have that little bit of a window between the two, you know.
Oh, that you do, you do. Look, I'm playing on weekends, most weekends, and the RSL clubs and the pubs or whatever, and mate, it's 3 45-minute sets, and that's enough. I can tell you that, and that's with a break of about 20 minutes, 25 minutes in between. Call it age, call it whatever you will. Mainly just life in general sort of fatigues you. But, mate, extreme metal shows, that's probably, 10 times the intensity of some of the cover shows that I'm doing just because of the nature of the beast.
Oh, yeah, we always notice it. Like, we've had a bit of a hiatus recently with both bands because we've been totally focusing on tracking and producing and getting this new album done for Laceration Mantra.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I know when we get back in that jam room to do Laceration Mantra, we are going to feel it, mate.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. You really notice it. It's going to be bad enough. So we're back in for rehearsals January the 20th for Motorized. That's going to be bad enough. But, when it comes to, it's another level, the extreme stuff. It really is.
Oh, definitely. I see what you guys do and I admire it a lot. To be honest, I don't think I could do it. It's never been in my wheelhouse playing. I love extreme metal, as you can tell, and I'm also loving the show, but my musical pathway has always taken me down very different avenues than extreme metal. And I played in a metalcore band once, and it just did a couple of gigs with them, and that was so fast. You can relate to this. I had to switch from playing with my fingers to playing with a pick on the bass.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't enjoy that. I got to say, because I play with my fingers, and it just was to get that driving sound that you need with that sort of thing, where you've got the guitars going at a fucking, I don't know how fast they're going, but they're very quick, much quicker than I'm used to. Put it that way.
Yeah, they are, and we've really noticed it. Like Anthony said to me the other night, I rang him for something, and he goes, "You know what? I was on the beers the other night," and he goes, "I threw on Prolonging the Pain just to have a listen." And he's like, "How the fuck did we do that?"
Yeah. That's pretty bloody full on, yep.
Oh, and that was all the rhythm beds done in 2 days for that album.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, you do tend to notice it as you get older. You've got it. Like, I was at that mate of mine, and I was saying the bass player was over at his place the other day, and one of his young fellas is, I think he's 14. Mm-hmm. He was out the back shooting hoops, and he's into basketball. And I said, I used to play back in the day. I'll go out, 6'3", see if you can shoot over top of me, give him a challenge. I was out there for about 15 minutes playing like fairly decent ball, and I said to Corey, "Oh man, that's me. I'm fucked."
It sucks, doesn't it? I know your bones feel heavy, don't they, at our age?
That was a real moment for me. In the next week or so, I got a friend who's got a pool. I'm swimming laps. Man, I got to get some aerobic capacity back.
Yeah, I do that too. But I can tell you, swim fit's a very specific type of fitness. Like, I can get in the pool like I did yesterday, and I can punch out 20 laps, no problem. Okay.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're better than me, man.
But what I find is, and you'll get these guys that these big units in next year, and they can barely do 2 or 3, but then they might be able to run. Whereas running for me is like torture.
Yeah.
Different type of fitness, Well, you've sort of you've got to choose your, they say choose your poison with alcohol. You got to sort of choose your method or your poison or whatever, with your fitness. So you got to find the one that works for you.
Yeah, well, I think I hate the heat, so if I'm going to increase my aerobic capacity in Queensland's weather right now, I think I need to swim.
It hasn't been terrible this last week. It's just been, I finally got the bloody mowing done today, after just 2 weeks of just relentless bloody...
Yeah, but that's the thing. You'll look out 2 days' time and you'll go, did I even do it?
Oh, that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened just after Christmas, I think it was, mate. It was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I know. And it was just because of the rain that we've been getting. So for people listening who are abroad, South East Queensland, we're subtropical, but you wouldn't bloody know it. It's like being in the Philippines at the moment or something. It
is. It really is right now.
Yeah,
it's just relentless. And like, we haven't had this much rain in a summer it's been a long time. Anyway, I can't remember the last time we had this much rain.
Not as consistently, no. And see, I'm Northern Gold Coast and we flood. So it goes down. So the drainage systems can't handle it initially. And then half an hour later, it goes like it disappears. It goes through the thing, but you still flood. So you can get I wouldn't say stuck, but I've got a Land Cruiser, right? So it can generally get through things that are, 30, 40 centimetres deep. It's no problem because as long as I can see, the rule is as long as I can see the gutters, or signposts that indicate where the sides of the roads are, I feel like I'm pretty good. Yeah, I know they say there's debris and stuff, but I never had an issue. And we're near the cane fields here too at Norwell. And, it just as soon as I had a gig up north at North Shore at Noosa on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And I drove back and I know that part of the world pretty well now, the cane field area there. And I drove through that coming back and I was like, oh, fuck, we're going to get absolutely hammered. And, some poor bastard had to get rescued probably the same time I was driving through there. It was just, mate, the water across the road, I could feel the Land Cruiser, big car, almost 3 ton or whatever it is. I could feel it rocking because of the water that was going on the road.
That's scary.
Yeah, I was a bit, mate. I was like, I don't know whether I've done the right thing here, but I know if I travel down there and if I can get through it, I can make an assessment on whether or not we need to get out of Dodge if we do.
Yeah.
So, but this season, man, it's just been bullshit. But
it has. It's just been so much rain. And the heat, the old Queensland summer, out on the patio we sit.
I love all the recent arrivals, the people from New Zealand and Victoria and shit, and they there's community forums and they still do cane burns near us and even worse.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they'll be like, who's fucking been bloody burning shit off? And people are just laughing at them saying, you tool. Welcome to this part of the world. But even worse, we get people putting pictures of cane toads up. They're saying, what sort of frog is this? So I think the recent arrivals are getting a pretty solid introduction to things.
A bit of ornithological trivia for those interested out there. The bin chicken, I can't remember their ornithological name.
Ibis, there you go. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. They have now worked out a way to eat cane toads.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
To avoid the poison. So they pick them up and they shake them around till the cane toad lets go the poison.
Yep.
And they know when it's finished letting go its poison, and then it's tucker time.
Good on them. Yeah, well, there's tons of them.
Time to devour the toad. So how's that?
Yeah, well, there's tons of them. Around Stapleton on the motorway there, mate, they've actually had to put up barriers because they're a protected species, right? They're native. So there's tons of them that get hit by cars and stuff, but there's literally thousands of them down there around Beenleigh. And of course, being where we are, mate, you just get tons of cane toads too, mate. So I think they should get to work.
Oh, yeah. They will be. Don't worry about that. I was amazed by that. There you go. That's nature at work again, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, the evolution. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know. Yeah. Mate, it's been...
go on.
I was going to say, it's been a killer chat. Is there anything else anything else in regards to what you're doing musically that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, so we've got ideas already for where we want to go with artwork for the new album. I think last week we'd really come close to where we want the mix to be, which has been a challenge, as you know, back and forth. But I think last week we're pretty much, I'd say we're 90% there. So I've got, and everything's done to a click, which was fantastic for this album. So I've got 2 tracks of bass still to go, and Scott's got I think he's probably got 6 solos and extra overdubs to do on guitar, and we're there. So hopefully won't be too much longer till tracking and the mix is done.
So you're aiming for middle of the year thereabouts?
I would say yes. I think middle of the year is a good estimate. By the time we finish the mix, get the mastering done, artwork done, shop it around, and decide where we want to go. I want to try and I've got a bucket list item. I still haven't had anything go to vinyl that I've been involved with yet.
Oh, yeah, you got to. Yeah, for
aside from a single years ago when I was in the rock band, but this one, I really want whoever's going to do it to go to vinyl. So, we're going to be shopping it around a bit to achieve that goal. So hopefully we can get that to happen and go from that. Ideally, I'd really like to try and work with a label who's got some foot in the door. Deals with agents overseas would be lovely. So then it can be more so the label saying to the agents, we want to push this, so bang, 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 we want to get them on this, this and this.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, that's where we want to be.
And look, just with the artwork too, are you working with Tony again?
I don't think we will be on this one.
All right.
I'm not sure, but I don't think we're going to be. I'm not sure. We haven't really spoken about it, so I can't really say one way or the other.
Sure.
But we also haven't spoken to him yet about it either. So it's that side of it's up in the air with what we're going to do. But we do have ideas where we want to go with a lot of it.
It'll be magnificent either way. I know it will be, mate, based on the track record and the personnel. You guys are as seasoned a professionals in this business as anybody could be from anywhere in the world, mate. So you'll get the tone just right.
I hope so, yeah. And as for motorised, we do want to be playing more this year than last year. So all I can say to anyone who's interested in checking that out, just keep an eye on the Motorised Facebook page. That's it. That's where the upcoming shows will be put up first.
Yep. And you'll obviously have some. Is the intent to have some shows too when the Laceration Mantra album is released as well?
Yeah, that'll be. We'll try and organise an East Coast run for that. There's a couple of things coming up. I know. Yeah, well, we'll be talking to people and trying to organise an East Coast run of shows for that.
Yeah, we could. Yep.
Yeah, when the time comes. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise, man. I can't wait to see you guys live. Laceration Mantra. Whether it's Vinnie's or one of the Brisbane venues or what have you, mate, go for it. Yeah,
and look, we haven't played Vinnie's with Motorised either, so we might get down there and do that. Maybe awesome. February sometime. We'll see what happens. But, keep an eye out for that if you're on the Gold Coast. And, again, thanks very much to you and Scars and Guitars for having me on for a chat. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure, mate. Look, anytime you want to have a chat about things or what have you, just, releases or just talk shop or whatever, I'm always up for it, man. I'd live for this too. So it's great to finally talk to you too, Rob. I've got to say, you're one of those blokes in the scene that I've had, when you have an awareness of somebody. I've had an awareness of you now for years, like I had with Scotty, and I only caught up with Scott last year after all of those years. So, mate, it's a pleasure to finally talk to you.
Yeah, likewise, mate.
Well, there you have it. What a tremendous chat. Rob Rieff, ladies and gentlemen, from Laceration Mantra and Motorized. Great stuff. All right, if you enjoyed that chat, there are more like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And if you like listening, I know you like reading because you're a smart person, and you're in luck on that front because I've written a book about many of the conversations that have taken place in the podcast titled Scars and Guitars, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond, Volume 1, because Volume 2 is in the works. It's being worked on right now, as a matter of fact. God knows when it'll come out, but letting you know there's another one coming, if you like the first one. And many people have. I appreciate that too. Comments, messages, it's all good. All right, so some more information to share with you about the book in the moment. Before we get to that, I will bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very, very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.